Hey guys, going to be doing an updated PvE and PvP tier list video. Before, I'll just list it out so somebody can compile it for convenient use. And if somebody wants to debate any positions and things like that, like you're welcome to in the comments below, or maybe I'll even post the thread myself. So I'm going to go into it right now. So again, we'll just go across with every single character. I will give them an assigned number. We'll do PvP first, seeing as how that's more my area of expertise, I guess. PvE is pretty variable to what you're doing. Where PvP has been the same for a very long time. There's no changing or added concepts coming into play basically ever. Anyway, we're going to go right into it. So there's going to be some differences this time. I'm going to have a situational list for both. So I'm going to do the characters by themselves, and then I'm going to also include different set effects that are going to kind of change the way that the game would work and break characters through, for example, with the Klein set. So there's going to be tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and unused. Just generally by anybody. Nobody would use these characters in PvP. At least not that I would see. They're generally just going to be in those categories. The tier 1 heroes are obviously going to be ones that no matter what your gear score or whatever, like whatever that is that they do is going to outperform other heroes consistently at whatever their role is. All right, so we're going to go into it. Bearman, obviously the best aggro tank in the game. He is definitely tier 1. You could argue that he isn't based off of defense, but again, I would still disagree. Aggro is a very important stat, and it is often overlooked. Chenny is actually tier 2 now. I'm not convinced that she's able to maintain tier 1. Her passive, we'll go into the details later. Let's just put her in tier 2 for now. All right, Jenny. Okay. All right. Deb is also tier 2. Kai is also tier 2. Lee is definitely tier 1. Serendi is still tier 1. Anybody who ever thinks that Serendi is ever going to be out of tier 1 is confused. The main confusion is that nobody would argue that charm immunity is a bad thing to have. Nobody in their right mind would ever say that charm immunity should ever be rerolled under any circumstances, and that is definitely because of Serendi alone. Mu is tier 2. Jack is tier 1. Carrot's tier 2. Tau is unused. Chris is tier 3. Momo is tier 3. Jenny is tier 1. You know what? Actually, no. Jenny is tier 2. She's going to be in the same category as Deb for the situational. Without a Klein set, her damage is actually just not very good. You'd have to sit down and do the math if you want to debate that one, though. Unknown is tier 3. Yekaterina is definitely tier 1. Lena is tier 2. Moss is unused like any other healer. There are a few people here and there that use healers in their PvP teams, but they're generally just pylons. Jin is tier 3. Nirvana also unused. Rage is definitely tier 1. Angela, tier 1. Cleo is tier 2. Fruel is tier 1. Jillian is tier 2. or Gillen, or however you want to pronounce his name. Persona is is a tough placement. He's again more of a specialist. I'm going to put him in unused right now. I think a few people might still be using him for some kind of, put your enemy on the water kind of shenanigans and things like that. For the bridge map, there's definitely some application for him. It's just not really practical. We'll put him in tier 3 instead. Persona. Soraka. Soraka, I guess, could be tier 3. Like, he's not as terrible as a lot of people would believe, but he is currently not really used unless you don't have any other heroes and you're like walking around with a 2-3-star team currently. So I think he's going to have to go into tier 3. Musaka, I'm actually calling him as tier 1 right now. I believe he is far superior to Jack, and he deserves his place on this list. Electra is unused. Alfred is tier... Alfred's another one of the situationals, but he's definitely going to be in tier 3 now. There's just not that great practicality for CC with Alfred. Oh yeah, skipped Raboff. Raboff is tier 2. Arguably unused, but I think a few people are trying to use him. It's just Scissors kind of dominates attack right now. It's extremely difficult to be able to incorporate Raboff. He's more of a situational versus team tank. He's not really a regular tank spot, but Disarm is definitely very useful, and he does have aggro. Azrael is tier 2. And Nox is tier 2. Dominique is tier 1. Kitty is unused in PvP. I wish they would change her from the area monster she is to like a assassin robot. It'd be pretty sweet. Pony is tier 3. Sonic Boom is tier 2. Sonic Boom is just like the weaker version of Chenny, the starting version of Chenny that can move. Frankenstein and Rascaria, they are both tier 3. They're just not going to be super practical in PvP. Rascaria, no, they're both tier 3. They're not going to be great PvP heroes at all. They're going to be on teams for fun, wanting to use the noblesse characters. All right, so Frankie and Rask, tier 3. All right, Ian, unused. Even with the buffs, it's terrible. Dolores, unused. At least seriously. A lot of people use Dolores for jokes. Henry is unused. Lance is tier 2. Lilith is unused. I think he does have some practical application for PvP. It's not a very good utility considering the maps that we have. But being able to pull things, if they do come out with new PvP maps, that might be readjusted. But right now, there's just no really great use for him. The same goes with Lily. Lily's really strong though, so Lily does get a tier 2 spot. Moa and Moang are both unused. Shark can be tier 3 for all the shark lovers. And Shushu is unused also. I believe that's all the current playable characters except for... I have my brightness down. Sorry. That's better. Alright, Lancer Alex, Sierra, and Assassin Zero need to be placed? Well, Lancer Alex definitely, I think, has a lot of potential, but it's really hard to incorporate him into a team nowadays. There's just too many good slot 3 places. I think that Lancer Alex is a good tier 2. It's just if you have Yekaterina, then there would be no contest between which one you're going to be choosing for your slot 3. Sierra is tier 2. We'll get into her after. If you even want to consider her a hero in the game, some people might just not because she is $100 to buy. So outrageous. Oh man. And Assassin Zero, he can be stuck in the unused section also. Zero. Oh. Alright. I'm pretty sure that's everything. If you want me to rate Klein, Klein, I would still say is going to be tier 1. He's just, his stats for everything are too high. Like some characters can make up for certain things with their different skills and whatever, but like Klein just doesn't have any bad stats of any kind. High mastery, high attack, decent hit rate, good hit rate, decent crit rate, at least for a base amount. Huge defense for a base amount, tons of mana, huge HP, rivaling that of most tanks. Like he's especially at super tip top tier, movement is never an issue because of all the different set effects. So that's something I can overlook. He's also the only character probably built properly enough to even be able to use the Berserk passive. So really excited for when Klein comes out. I think he's really overpowered, especially now that we have his set that we can equip to him too. Is going to be even more broken. All right, the situational tier 1s. So situational tier 1, completely set based. If you have a Klein set, then the area attack type heroes that are going to be extremely useful are Alfred, Yekaterina, who's already tier 1, so it doesn't need to mention, Deb, and Jenny. So Deb, Jenny, Alfred, and I already forgotten the last one. Why am I not seeing this? I have trouble remembering things that I say immediately out loud. Let me just check this. Alright, area attack type heroes. Deb's on the list. Jenny's on the list. Alfred is on the list. Kitty's still not strong enough even with the Klein set to be amazing. Oh, there we go. Raskria. She's an area attack type character. So because of that, she actually does possess the potential because she can resist any abnormal status effect. She has a weakening and that works both sides. Like she's not super strong, but she does have a decent hitbox. Like she's more of a slot 3 for square map. Again, I don't think she's strong enough to ever take down Yekaterina. Yekaterina is probably the best slot 3 hero of all time and will remain that way. Like she's basically got a cannon spot like Serendi, which is going to make it very hard to put any other kind of rock character in your team if you have those two heroes because they seem to be the absolute best at it. But if you want to make a team with Raskria, or if you're considering the use of a slot 3 scissor, then she's definitely on the list too. So, add Rask to that list. I thought there was one more. Am I losing my mind here? Pretty sure Moa's not strong enough either way. His stats are all pretty bad. You know what, maybe Moa could actually even be a tier 2 with that. Like, he doesn't really have any... What is this skill that drains mana? I forget. Oh, they consume more MP to cast their skills. How does that scale? So 4.5 at 9. Alright. So that's actually a lot. I don't know if it's really that practical for PvP, to be completely honest, just because even like most characters can cast their third skill twice and a second skill once, if they're built well. So there's really no great perk to that. His area coverage is nice though. It's like a giant Kai, so maybe for a paper area character. Yeah, you know what? We'll put Moa in the situational tier 1s also. If not tier 1, tier 2. Alright, was there any other area type characters I missed that are not already amazing? Nope, pretty sure that's it. Obviously, Muang, killing your team is never going to be good, so giving him a Klein set to enable him to kill them faster is never going to be good either. Alright, so because of the existence of the Klein set, these characters who are currently limited mostly by their stats, to be tier 1 or break through to tier 1, that doesn't exist. Even with a choice of any other set for any other type of character, like an Omni set, you can choose whatever set you want to be in the place. Nothing is going to make up for it, including this set right here that does grant another 3,000 attack. The Klein set is literally twice as much as that. It also lowers mana consumption, which is a huge boon for characters like Jenny especially. But all those characters are capable of now basically breaking huge limits of the game. It's really hard to describe to a lot of people just how much 6,000 extra attack is, but it's an obscene amount of damage. But these characters are all able, like if you just sit down, crunch out the numbers, do the math, these characters are all able to be just as good, if not better, than half of the tier 1 heroes. So that's why they're going to be sitting in that. Now, the only characters I think really open for debate here as to tier 1 or tier 2, probably Chenny. Chenny, a lot of people would consider, or has always been considered, like the god tier for the longest time. That is mostly due to the like a combination of things. So before, Chenny both had this great passive, which is always active on turn 1, as well as the percent reduction from defense. So that gave her two very broken mechanics. Even though it was only 2,000 defense, based off the percentages, that's still a huge amount. So Chenny was able to post really broken numbers. However, 2,000 defense ignore at this point in time, where people really have a hard-on for buff and defense right now, is just not noticeable at all. She might be taking off a 0.5% to a lot of characters of their actual defense before the numbers are applied. So she really just has her 23% buff, which is only a 1-turn buff. It's still good, and her stats are all still great, and she's still a good hero, but compared to where she needs to be, which I still feel is a slot 1 hero, she can't keep up with characters like Lee that just their numbers are just blown right off the charts. Rage, a lot of people would probably still argue that Rage doesn't deserve to be a slot 1, probably because that most people are using their Jack. Now, Jack is such a huge influential part of PvE, so most people do use Jack as their tank in PvP as well, which has worked out very well for the current meta because the best attackers in the game are all Scissor, which will lead us into this stupid ass character right here. Now, the important thing to note is that this character actually cannot beat Angela in terms of damage output. So she's actually really not even as strong. Now, she is the only character in the game who can truly say that her attack is over 9,000. So if that's cool for you, then that's cool. But as a character, she's basically built just the way that you'd expect a melee DPS to be built. She's very much like Dominique. High attack, high crit, good mastery, lowish defense, high dodge, medium level of HP. She's got this brand skill, but the only time it can ever work, especially as a slot 1 hero, which is the role that she'd be contesting, is going to be on the square map, and it's only going to hit the tank from the starting position. So her brand is really not practical in PvP at all. So it's really, you're just going to come right down to her skills. So this is a great passive, especially for PvE, but for PvP, it's just going to be way too hard for this to be practical. It kind of forces you, especially on the square map where it's going to proc, to always kill the tank, which she doesn't need this brand with 9,000 base attack and any gear at all to be able to one-shot jacks left, right, and center with her 30% extra buff and with the characters the highest stack in the game. Now I want to compare her to Angela real quick. Angela only has 8,000 base attack, but her passive right here increases her attack 0.7 per level. What is that at max? Where's the calculator when you need one? Whatever, 0.7 and another 6, so 6 and 7 is 4.2, so it's over 10%. Maybe it is exactly 10%, but another 10% would put her base, just her base, at around 8,800. So it's only about 400 difference. But the thing is, her passive applies to all attacks. So all of the equipment, everything is 10% stronger, so long as she has another paper. Also, her third skill, I think this is the second strongest actual skill in the game. When it comes to the straight modifier, the percentage, I think Dominique's is the highest. This is the second highest. It's still not stronger than, for example, Lee's third skill. But Lee's third skill has armor ignore and other things that are going to be variable, so there will be times where it's not as strong as this, but times where it's a lot stronger than it. Things like that are going to have to be considered. But this is definitely, in terms of the percent, the second highest skill in the game. Last time I checked, correct me if I'm wrong. So I still think that Angela is better. Now, Angela wouldn't be able to equip the God of Massacre set if it does come out in the future, but that's not out now, so it doesn't affect what's going on right now. Lena might be able to make an argument for tier 1, but Lena's percentage, Lena's skill, it does hit 200% of attack, so that's good. It does apply the weakening if you're not going to be one-shotting. Now, generally, most of the top characters in top levels can just one-shot all their targets, which is pretty sweet. But Lena's passive is still kind of useless, and her third skill is basically, if you look at the 16.5% of the HP, and we're going to use my current PvP team here, because I think that's going to be kind of the extremes, so the most amount that you can do. My Ekaterina has 95,000 health. My Lee has 104,000 health. And my Serendi has 96,000 health. So she could do about 16,000 damage to my attackers extra. But then we look at a character like Jack, who does 20%, and a character like Muzaka, which does a flat amount of 13,750. So in most comparisons, Muzaka, at the extremes, Lena will outdamage Muzaka, maybe. It's a big maybe, because his skill is very slightly stronger, but Muzaka also has other things that can affect the damage to this skill, as well as his base attack being in the 7,000s, I believe. Yep, 7,600. Lena, last I checked, I think was about 6,000. Let's go double check that before I make a fool of myself. Yeah, 6396. So, Lena's still a good character. It's just I don't think that she's the kind of character that is able to put up the kind of numbers that a tier 1 character is going to do. I think that Muzaka is probably the perfect character in the game right now, because he's going to be enabled to wear the best sets in the game. Muzaka, my current build for him is going to be a Born Assassin, a Beast Rain, and a Dasamir set. If not, if I can get the set that revives you in the first 2 turns, I would probably use that for the third slot, actually. The fourth set is going to be a Pathfinder, and the fifth set is going to be, or it could be the defense one, but I prefer the Pathfinder. And the fifth set's going to be Aldrika's Trinity. So Muzaka is the first character who's really a super high attack, good area coverage skills for a melee hero. Defense type character. So now you can have these super tanked actual attackers. So I think he's the first character that has been released that's actually going to be able to be this super monstrous heavy attack and heavy tank character all in one. Where even if you're only able to get between 40 and 50% defense with them, you're still never going to get one shot so long as you have like a Trinity. Like, you know, he's going to be able to get an extra like 60 or 70,000 health higher than most of your other characters. I think it'd be very reasonable to expect these super tanked out with around 160 to 180,000 health. They're going to be pretty monstrous. Anyway, who else do we have here? Anybody that I think might be contested? The tier 3 and the unused characters, that is mostly, their position is mostly based off of the inability to make good use of them in current teams without having very, very specific sets. Now, because we have very specific sets like the client set that are very targeted towards like area heroes, that's the only reason I'm deciding to do this, because Jenny does have a lot of crit damage, but doesn't have the stats to even really justify that she's going to be better than other heroes. But the client set completely changes that, for example. I think that's it. I don't think there's any other really good heroes that deserve to be higher or lower. Generally a lot of the same. Like, I don't think that any characters are really out of place. Anyway, that's going to be it for the PvP. I'm going to come back in a few minutes. I'll post this right away. We'll do a PvE section.